One of the most prevalent issues I see in the way people practice parkour is lacking even a minimal amount of structure or programming. I'm not necessarily implying that parkour training should be linear and lack creativity, but I've been noticing more and more people aiming for progress but failing to practice the specific skill they want to get better at. Since I've implemented even the most minimal amount of programming into my training, I've noticed less fatigue, more progress, and more dial in training sessions. I still have to be quite careful about hyperfixating on only separate movements and also concentrate on chaining them together because I tend to obsess about details in my movement. As it happens in any sport basically, after some time you get to a point in which it becomes increasingly hard to break physical and mental barriers because mental discomfort becomes more prevalent where your physical limits also stand. That leads to it being harder to 1. Get a nice dopamine hit from achieving something new, and 2. Get up the courage to put yourself in the place of discomfort. Therefore, the lack of structure will lead you to take the path of least resistance at all times to make the remaining reward you can get from improving at something you already know how to do. Structure helps with that because you already have laid out what you want to practice on a given training day. Structure basically provides you with the opportunity of trying something new, something scary in a manner that is organized, that allows you to let go of that fear and just stick to the specific task you want to do. Maybe in the beginning of your training journey you can get away with training hectically, but in the later stages of progress, training has to be targeted specifically at new skills or underlying weaknesses. Training also comes in phases. A couple of months could be focused on individual skills or improving certain weaknesses you have, and the next few months could be centered around mixing certain movements up or becoming better at chaining them together and maxing your potential in that specific field you improved at. And this goes on and on and on. What I started implementing in my training regimen is 1. Writing down what I'm planning on doing in that specific session, and 2. Giving myself a few minutes before training to enter the mindset I desire. I try to visualize success rather than failure and prepare myself for acting with a cold mind, not letting fear interfere with what I want to achieve. I find it way easier to progress in my movement when I'm somewhere between fear and excitement. That's the sweet spot. An indifferent mind. The less pressure you put on yourself, the less you fill your mind with made up scenarios, and the more you focus on the present moment, the easier things become. Being detached or neutral might be the best way to act. Not forcing it, not acting like a machine, but rather letting the flow of thoughts go through you and not acting on its basis, separating your thoughts from the immediate reality. Rather than seeing the challenges I face as problems to be solved, I try seeing them as journeys to be celebrated along the way. Too much of our time is spent on unnecessary thought rather than action, and parkour and weightlifting taught me exactly that lesson a million times. Only action counts. Thinking more or harder doesn't make a task easier, neither does squinting your eyes make you see better. As we can look back at past situations and not feel fear or overwhelming emotion, so can we look at the present moment and act from a neutral place. In 10 years' time, the emotions you felt or the thoughts you thought won't matter, so why not carry this attitude in every second of this life? In the end, problems have a way of solving themselves. We have the choice of either stressing ourselves unnecessarily or just observing life unravel. And that goes the same for parkour. The key takeaway is that one should act both from a place of reason and faith, giving himself the best resources possible, but also observing the process of growth from a neutral headspace, letting life unravel itself. After all, you're not beating your own heart, you are just a mere observer.